Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kalu Consulting Group. It's nice to have you once again. And today we are going to be having Aaron, a renowned finance strategist, come on and talk to us this beautiful morning. Hello, Aaron. Can you hear me?
Hi, Osinachi. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm very fine, thank you. I'm very fine. So today I'm going to be talking about how to be a successful entrepreneur. We're going to be talking about how to be a successful entrepreneur. So, like for you as a small business owner, for you as a medium business owner, right? How do you build your business to the point where it's thriving, with or without you? How do you implement structures in your business that allows you to thrive even in times of uncertainty, even in times of recession, even in successful times? Actually, how do you build your business? And everyone is going to be sharing that with us. Hello, everyone, it's very nice to have you here. Please, the platform is yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Osinachi. And I would like to start by congratulating Zikaru Consulting Group on the good work that you're doing. I follow your sessions. I followed even the session last week, which was about tax and so on, and I learned quite a lot that I'll be able to implement as far as my business is concerned. So kudos to the job you're doing. You're sharing knowledge and helping to empower the society. So again, I'm glad to be here to talk about entrepreneurship, which is something that um, I'm very passionate about. And yeah, I'm looking forward to taking questions from those who are participating in this webinar and sharing my experiences and giving an insight into my own entrepreneurial journey, and hoping that someone listening or someone who is going to watch this after some time can learn a thing or two from that, which could help in their own business endeavor. So I'm not sure where you want us to start. Probably if you can ask the questions, anything that you specifically want to know, I'm happy to share.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. So let's start by you telling us about the reason why you decided to venture into entrepreneurship as opposed to the normal 9 to 5. What was the push? What was the drive? What was the passion behind you choosing entrepreneurship?
Okay, thank you very much, Ostinachi. To be honest, it is true what they say that you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Now, when I look backwards, it makes sense. I think entrepreneurship chose me rather than me choosing entrepreneurship. So I'm sure you know, by the way, I'm a trained accountant, and obviously grew up in a family where, going to school, getting a degree, or getting some kind of professional education and getting a job was a must. Because actually I'm not from a family where entrepreneurship is a thing. The idea is you go to school, you graduate, you get a job, and that's it. However, because like I said, now looking back, entrepreneurship chose me. So I did exactly what the family expected of me. I went to school, got trained as an accountant, and I started my career in Cameroon and worked across different sectors. However, because deep down in me, uh, I am supposed to be an entrepreneur, or I am an entrepreneur. I always try to do something on the side. At that time, I didn't really think about it or categorize it as entrepreneurship. I tried to I looked at opportunities. So when you are an entrepreneur, no matter what is happening in the society, you keep trying. I mean, deep down in you, if you're an entrepreneur, you keep trying to, you keep finding opportunities where others could find problems. You see problems, you try to find solutions where others think, this is just a problem. So I did all sort of things. I started a farm, started a travel consultancy when I realized a lot of my classmates wanted to travel to Canada, to the UK, and so on. And all I did was, okay, these guys, they are looking for information relating to this, and they are willing to pay. So that entrepreneur in me was like, you know what, this is an opportunity. So these are things that I did while working. So each project that I worked on in parallel to my 9 to 5 job empowered me in a way and gave me some kind of lessons and insights into the real challenges that comes with starting from an idea to an actual product or service. And all of those things was actually doing, I mean, one, helping me to learn, like I've already mentioned, and then secondly, reinforcing my love and passion for entrepreneurship, you know, to the point where I was now confident that, okay, this is the direction that I want to take in life. And at least I'm at a point where it's not a disappointment to the family anymore. Everyone can clearly see that this is what this guy wants to do with his life, and he's successful at it. And I'm getting all the support that I need. So that's I mean, the short answer is I didn't choose entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship chose me.
That's very inspiring. That's very inspiring. One could almost say like you were born for it, right? One could almost say like you were just literally born for it. Okay, I'm going to ask you. You mentioned that you're basically coming from a background, right, where the 9 to 5 was the norm, where 9 to 5 was a normal thing, right, to be expected of you. How do you handle the opposition that comes from deviating from that particular set part? How did you handle it?
Yeah, so in my case, to be honest, I have a very, very supportive family, and because it wasn't a very drastic decision, like I said, I always used to maintain my 9 to 5 job, play my part in whatever is expected of me at the level of the family while doing something in parallel. So the good thing with that approach, whether consciously or unconsciously, is that it begins to prepare people's minds, and people empathize with you. Family members start empathizing with you because they feel like you're working too much. 9 to 5 is already very demanding, and then you spend your weekends working on your business, you spend your nights working on your business, you sacrifice your social life, sacrifice everything, and people start to look at it, and they feel like, maybe this guy is doing a bit too much. Why don't you just focus on one thing? And then with time, you also get better, right? Maybe the first project doesn't work, the second project doesn't work, the third project works but doesn't work very well. And then, as you go through these projects, you start building, because I always tell people that entrepreneurship is actually character building disguised as business building. So as you go through these different projects, these different endeavors, you start building that persona, you start building that person that can actually take an idea to a product or a service successfully and scale it. And then, of course, your family members, just going back to your question, your family members, they watch you go through that process, they watch you become better at what you do, and then the resistance gradually fades away. Because at the end of the day, we need to understand, in an African context, right? I wouldn't speak to a context that I'm not familiar with, but in an African context, when your parents, when your family, when your relatives insist that you need to find a job and do it, it's because they're thinking about your best interests. They know it's safer to just get a job, get a salary, and you'll be able to live a happy life. You'll not be working too much,
Yes,
have your weekends
yes.
to yourself, and so on. So once they see that you're becoming successful and you can still achieve all of these goals of having a good life from I mean, living a good life from entrepreneurship, then the resistance fade away. And I think I'm at that point where I have total support from my family and friends.
Yes, that's very nice, because you find out one of the major issues that entrepreneurs face actually is opposition from their friends and family. That is like the number one, even before the market start giving them resistance, even before they start entering into the market, right? You find out a major hindering block, and something most of our clientele face is opposition from friends, from family, and this can actually even kill the idea at the ideation stage. So it's really a big issue.
I think you're on mute for a moment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I
Okay,
can hear you
okay,
now. Yeah.
okay. So it's really a big.
Hello, Osinachi. Are you there? Okay, yeah, I think Osinachi is having some internet issues, but again, yeah. So until she gets back, that's really
Yeah,
how it
I'm
works.
following up. I'm following up the program. I'm there.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm following up. Mr. Anchenke.
Hi.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Is there any question you would like to ask? Why I think the host is struggling a bit with internet connections, but if you have any
Not,
questions, I'm happy to answer
not,
directly.
no, not yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah. So yes. Until Osinachi comes back, I think we were talking about resistance from family and friends, which, as I've explained, as you continue to go through. Okay. Osinachi is back.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, apologies for that. Did you get my question?
No, I think I lost you for. I mean, I lost you just before you asked the question. If you can take it again.
Okay, okay. So my question was, you know that many you mentioned that the first often for many entrepreneurs, the first project, the second project, the third project do die.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. You can
Okay,
go
so you
ahead.
mentioned that the first project, the second project often dies, right? So
Yeah.
how should entrepreneurs handle these issues when they are faced with project they feel that, oh, this is going, and I they feel that, oh, this is going to revolutionize the world, right? This is going to change the world in entirety, and just for them to find out that, oh, either is a flop, oh, it did not really turn out very, very well. In fact, the business is dying, right? So how do they deal with things like this at this point in time?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. That's a very good question because I think I've heard all sort of philosophies and school of thoughts, regarding this particular subject. To be honest, I think people have to be realistic. You have to be honest to yourself because I could lie to you, I could lie to the market, I could lie to investors, I could lie to employees, but at the end of the day, I cannot lie to myself, right? And also, one thing I've come to learn from experience is sometimes you have an idea or you start a business in a particular context, right? But then after some time, the realities on ground will not be. I mean, the realities could change, and that shift could actually determine whether your business is going to be successful or not. I'll give you an example. There's a project I was working on pre-COVID, and once COVID hit, once the pandemic hit, the realities change. And I had to be honest to myself that, based on everything that has happened after this new reality, which I had no idea, no way of knowing when I started the business, the market conditions have changed, and this project will no longer have a chance at being successful. And at that point, I was honest to myself, and I had a chat with my partners and so on. I said, look, these are the assumptions, or these were the conditions in place when we started this business, and these conditions pointed to the fact that we could be successful. But right now, the situation has changed, the market conditions are different, and I don't see a reality where this project will succeed with the new environment that we have, micro and macro economic environment that we have. So we have to be honest. It's either we keep burning cash and doing so much when we will achieve very little, or we can course correct and do something else. And I'm happy that this conversation went where everybody was civil, and we made a decision to pivot. And I think when we look back, we are all proud of that decision. So, fellow entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, you need to understand that failure and success are just outcomes. Whether it's failure, whether it's success, is an outcome. When you do something, you fail, you learn. You succeed, you learn. So these are both outcomes, right? And in most cases, you even learn more from your failures, because when you fail, it's so emotionally painful that you have to take some very important lessons from that. And sometimes it's not something to do with you. Like I said, the market could have shifted, or maybe your idea is too early for the market and so on. But you have to be real, and then you have to understand that if you can pick a thing or two from your failures, you are gradually improving your chances at succeeding with the next endeavor. So you have to accept. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be I don't know how to really put it, but at the end of the day, failure is an outcome. You learn and you move on.
In fact, one interesting thing I recently discovered was that most venture capitalists, most people who invest in startups, right, they like investing in startups or in founders, basically. They like investing in founders who have failed at an earlier venture. So they want to invest in a second time founder as opposed to a first time founder. And when I discovered that, I was like, oh my God, that's really interesting. Because this means that there is so much to be learned at failing as opposed to actually like if you just get into the market and you hit it immediately. In the long run, give or take, you're going to experience some issues which you do not really have the right experience to handle. But you see, second time founders, third time founders, they tend to make it bigger, they tend to become more successful at what they do as opposed to just being a first time founder. That's very, very interesting. But this does not mean that first time founders fail. No, no, no. That's not my intent. That's not my intent. Um okay, yes, thank you very much for that. And just quickly going to what you said, honesty is very, very crucial. Honesty is very to want to be completely honest with themselves. It takes a lot of soul searching. It takes a lot of in-depth review, right, to be able to make a decision and say, oh, this is not really ideal. It's time I shut this down. Or, oh, this is not really working out. It's time I really pivot to a different manner of doing things. That's very, very interesting. That's very, very interesting. So, at first, right, did you really know what business you wanted to venture in as an entrepreneur, or how did you find the gap? How did you find the gap you feel that your problem or your idea could solve as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Osinachi. So I think this is again a very important point. You don't find an idea, you rather find a problem that needs a solution. So, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs get this wrong. You look at your environment, right? In most cases, you find a problem that people are facing, and then you try to create a solution for that problem. It could be a problem that you are facing also, and a lot of other people are facing, and then you decide to create a solution. Now, not every solution that you create can lead to a sustainable business. Sometimes the problem is not faced by enough people to make it a business venture, you know, and then you create a solution maybe for you and your friends, and you solve that problem, and it doesn't become a sustainable business. In some other cases, you do your research and you realize that, okay, this problem is being faced by enough people, like a big number of people, maybe across the world, maybe across the country, maybe across the continent, to make it a viable business. And then once you've realized, okay, this problem is being faced by a lot of people, like what we are doing at Switcher, we looked at the financial landscape in Africa and other emerging market countries and realized, okay, this problem of payments and cross-border remittances, even though it looks like it's being solved, you know, people are not the solutions that are in the market are not necessarily addressing the problem in the real, market context. And then we decided, you know what, since this opportunity exists, let's test the market. And sometimes you can be wrong. You get my point? Sometimes you can be wrong. So it starts with the concept of what we call a minimum viable product, MVP. So we said, you know what? Now that we have this assumption, because at that point it's still an assumption that there is this problem, and there's a good number of people facing this problem that could actually create a sustainable business. We decided, let's put a minimum viable product in the market and test our hypothesis. Minimum viable product means like you spend the least amount of resources to build the most simple solution that directly addresses the problem that you think you want to solve. You put it out there and see how customers or potential users, the people that you're planning on targeting, respond to it. And in some cases, most people be like, a lot of people have different opinions. Like, okay, MVP, give it out for free. But for me, my philosophy is have people pay for the MVP, to use the MVP, because they are going to pay to use the product. That's how you know. See, if I tell you that I have a problem, right? And the moment you ask me to pay for a solution and I hesitate, then that problem is not painful enough. So for me, when I put an MVP out, you have to pay for that MVP, and when I see the response, then I know, okay, this is a problem that people are facing. There's a good number of people that are facing this problem, and these people, or maybe most of these people, are willing to pay for a solution. Then that means I have a chance, and I have now the motivation to go and build, and reinvest in this minimum viable product to even improve it and serve the users better. So I think, like I mentioned, just to summarize again for everybody that's listening, you don't find an idea, you find a solution, you find a problem that people are facing, you determine that there are enough people facing that problem to make a business, and then you create a solution to address that problem. So I think, in my opinion, that's how it should work.
That was really insightful. That was really insightful. Especially when you mentioned the fact that your minimum viable product should be paid for. What most entrepreneurs do is that, they'll be like, oh, you have a problem, here's a solution, don't pay for it. And they find out when they actually make people to start paying for that product, it becomes a thing because people are not willing to. They find out people are not willing to pay so much as they thought people are willing to pay, right, for that particular product. And also, it even reminds me of It also reminds me of I can't really say, but I can't really say the person who proposed this, right? But it reminds me of this thing. It's that if as an entrepreneur you're trying to build either an incentive or a pain relief. So yes, multivitamin or a pain relief. So people are willing to pay more for a pain relief as opposed to a multivitamin because multivitamin simply adds, but for a pain reliever they need it urgently. So people are more willing to pay for a pain reliever as opposed to a multivitamin, and it really got me thinking. Thank you very much for that. So you also mentioned the issue of risk. You also mentioned the issue of risks, knowing when to like decide if this is worth taking and if this is not really worth taking. Have there been instances okay, wait, before I go there, how do you conduct your risk assessment as an entrepreneur, not an accountant, as an entrepreneur? How do you conduct your risk assessment of your product, of your business, of your services, right, being offered to people? How do you conduct your risk assessments?
Yeah. So thank you again, Osinachi. So to be honest, entrepreneurship in itself entails risk. So an entrepreneur is a risk taker. There is always a risk when you decide to venture into any business, because there is no 100% guarantee whether you no matter how much research you do. Now, on the other, just to answer your question, I wanted to speak straight to that, the point that you can never minimize risk to zero. There is always risk. However, the way I manage risk is research. you know like, I don't make up my own reality. I try to look at the realities in the market, and this is not something that has come to me naturally. This is something that has come to me thanks to the problems that I faced before for not doing my homework. Sometimes you sit in your room, and I have, like I said, this is from experience. There was one time where I started a project, and I sat in my room and I thought so many ideas in my head, like, you know what, this product, there's this thing that I want to do. It would change the world. People will be excited to use it. I didn't go out there and speak to the people. I was building a solution for supermarkets, and I didn't go even for one day. I didn't spend one single day speaking to supermarket owners to try and understand whether or not what I want to build is something that they want and they are willing to pay for, And I don't know, at that time I was really inexperienced. I spent so much money. My co-founder and I, or my partner and I at that time, we spent so much money and time building that product. And 3 months down the line, when we started speaking to potential customers, supermarket owners, or supermarket and mini mart owners. Not only did we realize that they are not willing to pay for the solution that we have, but we also realized that even if they were willing to pay for it, there are so many changes. I mean, the whole concept and the whole design has so many problems embedded in it that we didn't take into consideration because we didn't speak to the people that were going to use the product, or we didn't try to look at things from their perspective. And that venture failed, and we lost all of that. I mean, we lost all the investment that we put into that venture. So that's the lesson that I took from, like I said, when you fail you learn. So I took a very bitter lesson, which has helped me in every other thing that I've done. I'm more realistic, and I do my homework. So before I get into actually building, I try to do my homework, make sure this is a problem that people are willing to pay for. Like you said, it's a pain relief. It's not, especially when we are living through a difficult economic period, the post-COVID world. People are very careful how they want to spend their money. So products that don't really solve a problem and just makes their life 1% better, people are not willing to pay for those kind of products, unfortunately. So now I minimize risks by doing my homework. This is how simple I can put it. Do your homework. Sometimes if you do your homework very well, you actually realize at that stage where all when all you've invested is maybe a few hours, a few days, or a few weeks, that the business is not worthwhile, and then you can course correct and do something else. So to minimize risks, please do your homework before you get into investing your time and money into building a business.
I find that so iconic. Like doing your homework. That is it's so mundane, but can be a world of difference between you successing, between you having success and you actually failing at what you do. Right? I think that's so iconic. Doing your homework as an entrepreneur. Yes, that's really good. Now then to my second question, right? What risk have you been able? So it was like a two-leg question. The first was how do you conduct your risk? To which you responded that doing your homework is the best way to conduct your risk assessment as an entrepreneur. And the second one is what risk do you think you've taken in your business that you think back to, that you always recall and be like, oh, I did do that. So what risk have you taken so far in your business that keeps you thinking, right? Or that you remember constantly?
Yeah, I think every day in the life of an entrepreneur is a risk-taking day. However, I think one major thing that I would say really proud of, a big risk that I took was, so we were working on one project, and then we decided, at some point, I already mentioned that, like, just before COVID, things were looking fine. Then COVID hit, things were not looking very fine. And I took a risk of, we already had an investor, right? And I already developed a very good relationship with this investor. And when I was 100% sure that, because of the changes in the market after COVID, things will no longer work, I took a risk. This was a very big bet, because one thing is, when it comes to entrepreneurship and startups, if you can speak to even very successful founders, they will tell you the hardest part, one of the hardest parts is raising money. So when you have an investor, you have to manage that relationship carefully. Or when you have investors, you have to manage that relationship carefully. It's a very important aspect of the business. But however, because I already had a very good relationship with this angel investor, I took the risk of going to this investor and saying, look, this is how much we still have left in the bank from the money that you invested, but this business, I'm not sure it's going to work. So there are two options. You either cut your losses, and we transfer whatever is left to you, and we say our goodbyes, and we move on with our lives, or you can take a bet on us again. This is the new idea that we want to work on. This is the homework that we've done. This is the research that is pointing to the fact that this new venture will be successful. These are the lessons that we've learned, and this is how we are going to build a kind of protection mechanism and be forward thinking going forward, so that if things are going to change in the market, we should be able to adapt quickly. That was a big risk because he could have easily said, no, I'm going to cut my losses. Let me have whatever funds are left, and we say our goodbyes. And I'm happy that today we are still working together, because this guy was like, you know what? Okay, I'm happy with your honesty. I can see the direction that you're going, and I'm willing to go with you. And today we are still working together on the new project.
Okay, a deep personal question. Do you think your investor is currently happy right now with you?
Yes, I think, of course, I maintain a very good relationship with my investors. Fortunately for me, it's not only one now. I have quite a few investors that I maintain. We maintain a very good relationship with them. We send them updates. Some of my investors are also advisors and directors on the board. So we have different avenues through which we interact, and I think I'm happy with the progress. Everybody at the team happy with the progress, and they are also happy with the progress. So, simply put, yes, my investors are happy.
That was putting you on the spot. That was putting you on the spot. Okay. So quickly, and just since you just I was not going to talk about this, but since you mentioned it, I felt okay. Why don't we just talk about it in relation to this? So do you really feel that it's ideal for entrepreneurs to know how to build good relationships? How important do you feel relationships are or is to an entrepreneur's life? How important is it to an entrepreneur?
I will tell
And
you,
what is the
yeah,
effect
yeah. Okay, so I will tell
relationships in
you.
general, right? That client, okay, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. Maybe if you want to
Okay,
expatiate,
I
but I
was
think I
trying
get
to, I
the
was trying to,
question.
I was trying to add more to the type of relationships, whether clientele relationship, whether investment relationship or investors relationship, whether employee staff employer relationship. How important are all these relationships, right? We're not just focusing only on the investors relationship. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you something. Relationship building and managing relationships is the lifeblood of entrepreneurship. Why do I say that? Businesses go through different stages, right? Like, if you and I agree to start a business now, it's just you and myself. Maybe my background is finance, maybe your background is tech, and so on and so forth. We can get started, depending on the business. Maybe we have the skill set to uh, get an MVP up and running, right? But soon enough we will realize that we need more people. We need other skill set that we both don't have, because if you try to do everything yourself, then that's a recipe for failure. And most at times, startups do not have the resources to hire the kind of people that they need to get their business running, or to move from stage one to stage two. That's where relationship building is key. I think one thing that have made a very big difference in my entrepreneurship journey so far is the ability to build and maintain good relationships. You know, it could be bringing people in as advisors, it could be bringing people in as team members, core team members, building the product without getting a good salary or not even getting any salary at all. But you need to make sure those people are, whoever you're bringing on board buys the vision, is motivated enough, to build with you, and you, you need to, relationship is like everything, because at times that's the only thing that you have to keep things going, when people are exhausted, when people are losing motivation, especially in difficult times, because again, it's a roller coaster journey. One day you wake up the happiest person on earth, and the next day you wake up thinking, what the hell am I doing with my life? And if you go through these things, your team members go through these things, your investors go through these things. I sit sometimes, and maybe something will happen even before I get access to that news. One of my investors or advisors will send me a link. Have you seen this thing happening in the market? There is panic, and you are, I mean, as a business leader, was the vision bearer, you shoulder that overall responsibility to keep everybody sane in good or bad times, and that you can only do if you have a good professional and sometimes even interpersonal relationship with every other stakeholder, and then when you start scaling the business, you start hiring people. Of course, you have to find a balance between being a friendly boss and getting the job done. You know, most of the people I work with at Switcher today are my friends, are my brothers. My sister. They are people that I already had like pre-existing relationships with. So you have to find a balance between okay, the friendship, the brotherhood, and your responsibility as a boss to get the job done. And you can only do this if you are able to build, let's say, different relationships and manage them properly. Otherwise, you run into trouble because sometimes you get too friendly and people don't get the job done. Sometimes you're too hard and people start losing motivation. So I wouldn't say anyone is perfect at this. I'm not perfect at this, but the good thing is I'm conscious about this. So every day I try to learn from my mistakes, and I know that it's something that I have to continually work on. And I know if I'm doing well or not by the kind of results that we are getting and the posture of the people of the different stakeholders, be it colleagues or be it investors, be it partners. You have to look at their posture or their positioning and see if something is right or not. Sometimes I actually just, anticipate or, see that things are not going well. And I have a conversation with this person and say, look, uh, I get that, you don't feel all right. Is there anything I can do? Like, what exactly happened? Because sometimes you can create problems or fractures in these relationships without even knowing, and then you speak to people and then they get to explain to you, and then that helps you to manage the relationship even a lot better. Osinachi, are you there? I think Osinachi, your connection is not the best.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Sorry, I lost out. I went out for a minute.
Mhm. Okay, are you I think the connection is on and off. But yeah, I think relationship management is very important. While we wait for our host to reconnect, it's very important in as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, or even business leadership is concerned. It's very important to be able to build and manage your relationships properly. Build and manage good relationships. Now, there's something else that I would like to speak to uh, in before our host comes back. It's again when you move from the MVP stage, you start building your business, and at some point, because I mean, when the host opened, there's something she said which I took note of to speak. I mean, I was just saying there's something you said at the opening when you did open this webinar or conversation. You mentioned the fact that we you mentioned the fact that sometimes you go from an MVP. I mean, you start building a business, and then you want to get to a point where the business can go on without you. So that's where scaling comes into place. So I took note of that, and I would like to speak to that at the moment. Now,
Okay.
there's a very simple business philosophy that I personally practice. Building a business is really about, I summarize these things down to three pillars. It's about
Okay.
the product, and product, by product, I don't mean only physical product. It can be a service, right? Anything you're offering is about the product, it's about the people, and it's about systems. You know, when you initially start off, you don't think a lot about systems. You don't think a lot about people. There's so much focus on products because without the product, nothing else matters, right? You build an MVP, you put it out there, and sometimes you don't need a lot of people to build an MVP. You don't need a system to build an MVP. You just do whatever you can do to get the basic service or solution that you want to provide and you put it out there in the hands of customers. And like I said, my philosophy is I have to charge for it. You see how much people are willing to pay, whether people are willing to pay, whether people are even willing to use the product, and if they are using the product, what are the things that could be improved? What are they saying about the product? What is the feedback? So once you've gotten the product right, and there's no perfect product, right? It's an ongoing journey where you have to keep learning and improving the product. However, once you feel like okay, you have things going with the product, the next thing is you need people, right? You need people. You cannot do everything on your own. You cannot be the accountant. You cannot be the accountant, the marketer, the director, the legal
Everything.
person. Yeah. So you get to a point where you feel like, okay, the business is growing and you need people to come in and handle the different functions, and again, it goes again back to relationship. Maybe you don't even have the right resources, so you start doing hiring and so on and so forth. You bring people in, you sell the vision to them, they buy the vision or not. You take in the people that buy the vision, you try to manage them, build relationships with them, professional and interpersonal relationships and so on. Then now getting to the point where you feel like I have the right product, I have the right people, but I want to scale and serve more markets and more customers. I want to go beyond my immediate market. I want to build a business that can run without me. Then you start thinking about systems. Most businesses get stuck when they have the product, they have the people, they don't have the systems, they cannot scale. you know you start thinking about systems. And again, like I said, this is not something that any organization has have it perfect. It's an ongoing journey, continuous improvement. I have that philosophy of continuous improvement. Every day you think about what else can I do to improve the status quo, so that we can be more efficient, we can be more effective, and so on and so forth. So the last pillar is systems. And when you get to this point, it's actually like, okay, I've built an MVP, I've brought in the right people or good quality people, and then I'm achieving product market fit. And now I want to take my product, I want to scale. Then you start thinking, what systems can I put in place so that even if Aaron wakes up on Monday and he's sick, the business will run. If Aaron has a vacation, the business will run. And this is not only Aaron. If X, who occupies this particular function in the business, is not available, the business can run. And if I bring in someone new, spending a short time within the organization, they will be able to understand how things are done, what resources they need to do their job, where they can find these resources, how they can get the right permission to access these resources, and so on and so forth. When you have this part covered, then you're ready to scale. And then as you scale to a certain height, you might realize the system that you have in place have been good enough to take you to that height, but will not be good enough to take you to the next height. So that's where continuous improvement comes in. You have to start thinking, maybe I've been able to scale my business to manage customers across maybe one country, but now I'm looking at managing customers or getting my business into different countries, different legal jurisdictions, different regulatory frameworks. What kind of systems do I have to put in place to be able to take me to that new height? So again, I will summarize. There are three pillars, and just to be clear, this is not something that I came up with. I learned this from a very renowned entrepreneur, Strive Masiyiwa from Zimbabwe. He's based in the UK. I think the founder of Cassava Technologies and other telecom businesses. I actually borrowed this from him and I've applied it to my business and it's working properly. So you have to think about the product, you have to think about the people, and then you have to think about the systems. And as the business leader, if you worry about these three, to be honest, you're worrying about every aspect of your business.
So you feel we don't need to worry about the market, the changes, or is it all encompassed under the products?
No, if you summarize, see, it's about product. If you don't have a good product, everything you're doing is you're wasting your time, right? No matter
Okay, okay.
if you market, if you do the best marketing in the world and your product is not good enough, what will happen is your churn rate will be very high. So you have a lot of customers coming in today and a lot of
But
a lot
they're
of them
not.
going out tomorrow, right? So you get the product right,
Yes.
and then you get the people. When you get the people right, that means you're getting the right marketing person, you're getting the right legal person, you're getting the right accountant, you're getting the right CTO, etc., etc. And these people will worry about all the other aspects of the business. And then when you have these people, the next thing is you need to put a system in place so that these people can work and coexist, and complement each other. Because what happens is when you don't have a system in place, the accountant could get in the way of the engineer doing his work. The engineer needs to hire or acquire certain resources. The accountant is like, no, this is very expensive. We are not, so there has to be a system. That's where I'm an accountant. I will tell you there's a simple system called budgeting. Budgeting has to come in place. Like, okay, is this part of the budget? If this is not part of the budget, how can we get it in? Blah, blah, blah. And that all comes with systems. If you don't put systems in place, even if you have the best people, you might not necessarily achieve the best results, because there will be a lot of uh, like what you will see in the corporate world, politics, people fighting each other, people trying to
Especially
get in the, yeah,
bureaucracy, yes.
yes,
Especially
and
bureaucracy.
exactly. And then there's no clear cut decision making process. Things take longer, and you're spending more resources doing things that could have been achieved with systems, product, people, systems, and you have a business.
That is so all encompassing. That is so all encompassing. I really can't thank you enough, Aaron. So I'm just going to take questions from the audience right now. And the first question we have here is, what sources of finance would you recommend for a startup? Debt or equity?
Okay, so um, debt is a cheaper and a better a source of finance. I will first of all make that very clearly, and I tell you cheaper and better because uh, debt doesn't dilute your cap table. You don't give away equity. Debt is an instrument where you don't have to give away equity, as opposed to other instruments that could lead to dilution to the cap table. However, debt is more difficult to obtain than equity financing, because equity financing, especially at an early stage in your business, it's easier to get equity, because equity financing means that the investor is buying into your vision and taking the risks with you, right? However, on the other hand, debt financing is like the business needs to have underlying assets to collateralize that debt financing. And debt financing can have a big burden on the cash flow of a business, because debt financing means you have to pay interest periodically, and you have to shoulder the burden of also paying the principal depending on the terms of that debt financing. So at an early stage, at an early stage in the business, because it's so difficult to obtain debt financing, equity financing seems to be the more realistic option. However, what I would suggest is, even equity financing, you have to go in stages. If you start a business, and again, this is my opinion and this is what I practice. If you start a business, the first source of finance, even before you get to financing, again, you must have done your homework. You must have used your own money or your own resources to build an MVP, test it, have some data points to show that this business works and that this can actually scale. Then you can go to the angel or let's say family and friends round, because you've put your own money, you've taken the risks, you've built something. You go to your family and friends and say, guys, look at, I've done this and I need this much to take it to the next level, or maybe to improve the MVP. Most at times, if you do your homework right, by the time you reach the MVP stage, you will have some feedback from the people that have paid and have used your product. Then, ideally, you might not have the resources to implement those changes. Then you go to family and friends, right? And then from family and friends, you go to angel investors. From angel investors, you go to VCs. So that's how equity financing works. And then long term, when your business is generating enough cash flow, your business has built enough assets on the balance sheet, you can actually think about going for debt financing to scale your business. So that's my answer to that.
That was a very well thought out answer. Thank you very much, Aaron. We really can't thank you enough for coming onto this season. We have exceeded our time quota, and I don't know if you'd be willing to take on one more question before you go, or
Sure.
oh, you
I
can,
can
oh, you
actually
can.
take a few questions, no problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So I was going to ask you, right? I was going to ask you what advice you can give to young entrepreneurs who are just starting out in their field. What really worked for you? No, if I say what really worked for you, it could be subjective. But what is an objective advice you feel that you can give to young entrepreneurs who are just starting out in their respective fields?
I would say uh, one thing I would say is have skin in the game. Have skin in the game in the sense that a lot of see, and again, aspiring entrepreneurs, people thinking of getting into entrepreneurship, I would tell you the picture of entrepreneurship painted in the media is false. I will tell you for free. You know, I've been there. I've been covered by national newspapers. I've been on different platforms and everything, and it all seems glamorous, and it's like it's a bed of roses. That's false. That's not the true picture of entrepreneurship. Most entrepreneurs that even some are running out of money. But when you see them on magazines, it's like wow. So have skin in the game. The reason why I'm adding this, I mean, I'm saying this, I mean, it will make sense shortly. Entrepreneurship is intrinsically very challenging, and it's the most daring thing I've done in my life. It's intrinsically very challenging, and sometimes very exhausting. That so much so that if you don't actually have skin in the game, having skin in the game means you're passionate about what you're doing. Sometimes if you're not passionate enough, you will give up. You might give up just before your breakthrough, or maybe a distance away from your breakthrough, but still you will give up. And that will happen because you don't have skin in the game. If you have skin in the game, then you are almost equipped to face the challenges, navigate the landscape, and eventually get success, either with the idea that you initially started with, or an idea that you pivoted to based on changes in the market, because you could be solving a problem, and the current approach doesn't work. You change your approach, but you end up solving the same problem. Sometimes with a completely new product, or maybe even in a different industry, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're addressing the problem somehow. And that will only happen if you have skin in the game. Many people start businesses, and I speak to entrepreneurs, right? I speak to fellow entrepreneurs and upcoming ones. They start businesses because they feel like it's the fastest way to become a millionaire. It's the fastest way to get to the million. You see in the news, oh, this startup has raised this number of millions. Wow. And then people will be like, I have to find something that I can do to also get to the million. That's already a recipe to failure, right? And only 2% of startups actually raise money and make it that big. And those are the 2% that the media is actually covering. About 98% don't make it, and you don't see that in the media. So the reality is, make sure you have skin in the game, and make sure you're solving a problem to a solution that exists, and that the problem is being faced by a good number of people, enough to make a business, and that you're passionate about solving that problem. In my opinion, without these recipes, it will be very difficult to make it. Don't start a business because you want to make money. If you want to make money, get a job, grow to the top of the organization, and earn a good salary.
Oh my god, that was so direct. If you want to get money, get a job. But actually, that's just the truth. If you're really sincere, if you're really really passionate about solving problems, right? Entrepreneurship is the best bet for you. And I think the media plays a very dangerous game. I think the media plays a very dangerous game. Well, we could say it's their job, but they tend to like highlight the top 2%, like you said, right? And then people don't really see the whole remaining 98% of persons who have who are unable to make it to that top 2%. They'll be like, and then we have some entrepreneurs who then go like, oh, if they can do it, anybody can do it. And then they really feel why is it that's a very cliche statement to make, but still you need to really have skin in the game, like you said, to be able to like come out to the top 2%. And I feel that's very, very interesting. Okay, this is going to be the last question we are going to take. What role do you think consulting firms give us? Okay, it's going to be a personal question, right? Or a shit question. But what roles do you think entrepreneurs, I'm sorry, consulting firms, right? Like DCG, okay, I'm personalizing it, yes, but can play in helping startups grow? What role or to what extent do you feel consulting firms, right, play in helping startups grow as fast as they can?
Yeah, I think a very, very important role. Actually, when just like I mentioned, when you start a business, in most cases, right, more often than not, you don't have all the resources that you need, right, to get your business up and running. As you move from idea to MVP to product, achieving product market fit, etc. You don't have the skills, you don't have the resources, you don't have the time, you don't have the money, so everything is in short supply. But the problems is never in short supply. Problems and challenges, the supply is, if there's anything like surplus, it's like, just coming from all directions. So consulting firms, I mean, entrepreneurs will benefit from using the services of consulting firms like yours to help them navigate the terrain and to help them handle other aspects that are not core to their business. For example, if I'm focused on building my MVP and talking to customers, understanding what customers want, and trying to make sure that I can tailor my product, I can improve my product to meet the requirements of my customers. Probably that's all the time I mean, I have to spend all the time I have to get that done, right? But still, the business does not operate in a vacuum. Still, my business needs to have good accounts. I need to prepare good accounting statements because when I'm talking to investors, I have to show them my books, how much we are spending, how much we are making, and so on and so forth. Still, I have to worry about compliance. I have to worry about regulations. I have to worry about hiring. I have to worry about preparing the investment deck. I have to worry about preparing the. So these are all the things that are necessary, but not core to my business at that point in time. Because what is core to your business changes as your business grows. At the initial stages, I'm trying to just be default alive. I'm trying to stay alive, and I want to focus on the most important aspects. So I can now outsource because again, I don't have the money to hire different people for to handle these different services and pay them every month. I can now outsource some of these important but not core responsibilities to an outside firm like Zicalo Consulting, and that will allow me to focus on what is called my business, but still get those things done.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a very definite breakdown. Yes. So basically, for small business businesses, right? They're just trying to stay afloat. They're trying to keep their head out of water for the first few years actually. And why these other things are very very relevant to even staying to even growing, right? They cannot afford to let go of the veins, right? So they can simply outsource all this to us and we can take care of it. Okay, that was advertising there, but still not
I mean, it's
in
it's your
Nigeria.
platform.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Aaron. That was a very insightful conversation. We had planned 30 minutes and we have gone on to 1 hour. So I told you that was the last question, and it has been a pleasure having you on this page. It has been a pleasure, and we hope to bring you some other time again, so we can have this conversation again. Right? It was very interesting. So to our listeners, please follow him. He's the CEO of Schwa. So you can check out his page, right? If you go to our LinkedIn page or our YouTube page, you're going to see his profile, his link, and his company much for that. And thank you very much for coming on to this season. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Happy to come back next time. Thank you.
Okay, okay, okay. Have a nice time. And bye everyone. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.
Same time, same venue.
Sure.
Bye.